Minister, the situation developing in Ukraine is both horrendous and quite terrifying. The assault by Putin and his forces on Ukraine is barbaric, it's foul, it's obscene, and it must be condemned. And it comes from a regime that has a long and brutal history of warmongering, of despotism, whether it's suppressing dissent among the Russian population to the regime, or the bloody wars in Chechnya and Georgia and Moldova. Indeed, I was at the US Embassy protesting last night, and it recalled the fact that in 1999 I stood outside that same embassy with very few people, it should be said, protesting against the Russian slaughter in Chechnya, which claimed the lives of 50 to 80,000 people, but was little remarked upon in the Western world at the time. I think it is vitally important we extend our solidarity to the Ukrainian people, whose suffering is really unspeakable at the moment. And we must do absolutely everything to extend humanitarian assistance and solidarity and support to Ukrainian people, and indeed defend absolutely their right to resist this brutal invasion of their country. But I think we believe that your motion is also one-sided, because it doesn't, as our amendment, and I want to formally move our amendment, it doesn't make any allusion to what is really the hope in this rather dark and grim situation to the Russian anti-war movement that has exploded onto the streets, with ordinary Russians proving that huge numbers of Russians do not stand behind Putin and oppose everything he's doing, and that we must do absolutely nothing to undermine that movement of opposition to Putin, but rather do everything we can to support and nurture that heroic resistance. And that most importantly, we must not pour petrol on this dangerous fire, which could be inflamed to the point, the terrifying, unthinkable point of the use of nuclear weapons, or indeed deliberate or accidental catastrophes at nuclear power plants in that area. So we think it is critical that we warn against any escalation, and that from a neutral country we have to be proactive in arguing against forces that wish to escalate this situation or seek to use it to encourage militarization and war and arms expenditure as somehow a solution to the terrifying and dangerous situation that we are witnessing in Ukraine. And that is why we think it is critically important to mention NATO. That is not to say that it excuses Putin's behaviour, but it is to say it was absolutely inevitable that the eastward expansion of NATO, the active recruiting of countries into a nuclear military alliance with a bloody history in Afghanistan, a history of bombing in Libya, and whose major powers have been guilty and are guilty as we speak in engaging in warmongering around the world. They are not the allies of the Ukrainian people, and they are most certainly should not be the allies of this country as a neutral country. And our job should be to argue against warmongering, involvement in military alliances, the arms industry, military expenditure, and urge peace and dialogue as the way to settle conflicts. And I cannot help, you'll have your chance, Simon, I cannot help but call out the double standards, unless you're going to surprise me tomorrow. Instantly, you want sanctions and have imposed sanctions against Putin for crimes against humanity, which he is committing, and that's what they are. Hold on, don't interrupt. There is a, yes, come on, count. But Amnesty is calling for sanctions against Israel for crimes against humanity as we speak, And today we had a briefing from people from Yemen who are talking about the direct involvement of the USA in supporting Saudi committing crimes against humanity in Yemen. Not a word about those things. Active support for the countries that do it, or at least trenchant opposition to sanctions. Double standards will not help the people of Ukraine, and they will not help end the scourge of war and militarism.